Welcome to Art Loves Fashion. I'm your host, Sharonda Irving. I'm an image consultant, professional developer, art curator and collector, a wife and a mom. This show, Art Loves Fashion, is about, you guessed it, art, love, and fashion. We'll be meeting new people, trying interesting things, and hopefully learning something new. Sounds kind of vague, right? That's because I want you to join me on Sundays at 5 o'clock as we take a journey of all things creative and beautiful with art, loves, fashion. Happy Sunday. Welcome to Art Loves Fashion. It's your host, Sharonda Irving, and welcome to a conversation about all things creative and beautiful. Way back in February, the founder of Sober Black Girls Club, Khadi, came and had a conversation with me about sobriety, about Sober Curious, and about all of the things in between, or just even wanting to talk about the idea of not drinking. Well, she came through and we had a good old, girl to girl conversation. And one of the things that struck me was the hard work that they are doing on behalf of not only women who are just going through this journey, but also the financial support that they are lending to women who are trying to get help, who are struggling through their addiction. So I wanted to replay this episode today and encourage you to go online and find Sober Black Girls Club and find it in your heart to do a financial contribution to help their organization to also assist Black women who are struggling with their recovery. So today's episode is going to be an Art Loves Fashion Classic Edition. So stay tuned and watch my conversation with Khadi from Sober Black Girls Club. And then don't forget, I am asking you to find it in your heart to support other Black women who are struggling with their addiction and need support. Happy Sunday.
I'd like to thank her for joining us today and coming onto the show. Welcome, Khadi.
Thank you for having me.
So Khadi is here. I asked Khadi to join us because she is, her title, she is the founder of Sober Black Girls Club, and also I would say sort of like a sobriety advocate. And I pulled out my party cup. I was showing her this. I bought my party cup, and years past, it would have had, some libations in it. But I have been on this sober journey for a year. I'm now a year and like 3 weeks in. So I'm not following like a coin type of system, whereas if you have a drink, you like got to start all over to zero. I'm not doing that. I gave myself a window, like between Christmas and New Year's Day, you can have a cocktail. I wasn't nobody going nowhere, so it wasn't no turn up. So I had a couple glasses of champagne. So I'm still saying a year and some change. Which brings me to one of the things I appreciate about your page. It is it's about sobriety, but also, this earring don't want to stay in. It's about sobriety as well as sober curious or sober-ish. So before we get into those distinctions, Khadi, can you just kind of share with us, and I forgot to go live, share with us who you are at this moment? That's a big question. You can share whatever you want, and how you got to here. Like, what's your story, so to speak?
Hey everyone. My name is Khadi Oluwatoyin. I'm founder of the Sober Black Girls Club. I am an attorney, daughter, sister, cousin, friend. I'm a gentle being, a joyful being at this moment. How did I come about and creating Sober Black Girls Club, or just being in this moment in general? So I guess I grew up in New York City, pretty like average, or I thought like average life. I went to private school. Did gymnastics on the weekends. Went to Saturday school. I pretty much had, I want to say, like a routine or like a textbook life growing up. Went to college, and it was in college the first time I had my first drink. I actually remember like my dad dropping me off in the dorm, and I remember he left, and then I got like a knock on the door, and it was like this frat. And basically, that was like the beginning. So like, I had like the idea of college life, and it was great to be honest. Like, met new people, finally able to party. Like, I couldn't party, or I didn't really have a lot of freedom at home. My parents were like really strict Muslims, so I was able to like,
Okay.
yeah, live my life, and it was great. And just to cut it short, went to law school again. Like, being a lawyer, being in that surrounding, alcohol, happy hour is very. It's charged.
Yes, listen. I know a lot of lawyers. Listen, again, I'm in Washington, D.C., and like alcohol is part of the culture.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
you can't make it. People say if you can't make it past the bar exam without almost lightweight being an alcoholic.
Exactly. I mean, yeah, yeah.
I mean, maybe not literally, but that's kind of like the running joke. Like, I've had heard a lot of lawyers say, like, and it's just part of the culture. Like, you do imbibe. That's the word right here. With
Yeah,
a lot of alcohol.
it's pretty much a part of the culture, and yeah, it's pretty much a part of the culture. So I graduated, like, passed the bar, blah blah blah. Everything was like great, and I guess like I took a lot of my. There were a lot of things happening that year. I want to say the year was like 2018, 2019, and I took like my party habits with me back home to New York City. And I basically used like alcohol to cope. And I feel like you asked a really great question. You said something. You said a lot of great things, and I'm just so happy we're having this conversation. But how I realized that alcohol was playing a role in my life is what encouraged me to create from a Black Girls Club, because I just feel like there's so misconceptions
Mm.
to like alcohol when it comes to like how we have to like how we have to be introduced to it when it comes to like what role it plays in our life. Like you had said earlier, you don't follow a program. To be sober, you don't have to follow a program. You don't have to do anything. It's your life. You make the rules that you want to like follow. If some people still drink. Maybe I think like Mary J. Blige is a great example. She still has like a wine company. Excuse me. However, she no longer does drugs or hard liquor. That's perfect because that's her life and that's what fits her. That's what fits her lifestyle. That's what makes her be able to like get up every morning and be successful and feel good about herself. So you don't have to define anything. I don't even use the term alcoholic. I don't use the term addict. I just feel like it's labels and that. Well, we'll get to that. I feel like I'm rambling, but no, it's perfect.
No, that's good. That's good because I think that can be sort of off-putting to people who may be toying with the idea of either being sober or cutting back. Like, they may feel like, but I'm not an alcoholic, or they may feel, which, some alcoholics feel like, no, you need to go ahead and embrace that term. I don't know if I agree with that or not, because that may not necessarily be like everyone's actual case.
And then when you use the term alcoholic, like for me, I remember in the beginning when I was struggling, I had thought that like an alcoholic was someone who was homeless, like big beer belly, blah blah blah. In my head, an alcoholic was not me. And when we use those terms, those definite terms, we basically exclude people who could actually benefit from sobriety or harm reduction. Because the truth is, what is an alcoholic? Like, what is it? There's no like actual literal term. It's just a, what do you call that? It's like this general umbrella where like you're dependent on alcohol, but like in what sense? We're dependent on a lot of things. On what sense? So
Yeah.
I personally don't use those words, like those label terms, because it hinders people from acknowledging, and then it just groups up us all together. Like it groups up us all together, and I just don't think it needs to be done like that. But
everybody's journey or decision making or process is different. I know for me, when I hear the term alcoholic, what automatically triggers in my mind is AA.
Exactly.
And I know a lot of people who resist getting help because they don't want to go to AA.
Exactly.
Like, those two things are almost synonymous in some people's heads.
Yeah, especially when and see how important that is. It's like people resist getting help because one, a lot of people may not even relate. I know I didn't get sober through AA because AA just was not my thing, and then I don't even want to, that's the whole nother probably show. But like that was not my thing. So if I'm thinking that the only way I can get sober is through AA, and every time I go to AA, I have to say I am an alcoholic, which is basically an affirmation. I don't even know why I don't even want to. Whatever. Okay, we're not.
Yeah, that's a whole nother. Right, varying. But I think that the thing that is important to take away from that is the idea that there's more than one way to decide to either stop drinking or slow down or take a more critical look at the way you interact with alcohol.
Exactly.
Now, you know what? Now, what's interesting, and we kind of talk a little bit. I always talk with my guests before the show about like how the show sort of flows, and I have a couple of guiding questions. But almost every time, my guests will say something that like I'm like the person like, oh, I want to talk about that. I wanted to just kind of take a minute to acknowledge that you said that you grew up in a Muslim household, and the funny thing is, I said amen, right? But I have a lot of family members. Almost probably 50% of my family members are Muslim, so I'm very familiar with how that alcohol does not. You don't touch it. It's not anywhere in like now when we have family gatherings, we have alcohol because also we're black and we have Muslims and then we have people who are struggling along their journey with alcohol as well. So my family members who are Muslim are like, okay, y'all get that and bring that over here and we're going to get the food or the sandwiches or whatever. So when you said that, I was like, okay, I can really see how when you came to college, it was like, oh, this is, a new introduction. Because for me, growing up, like where I grew up, it was like a rites of passage, drinking. Like people in my neighborhood started drinking really early. So when I read that you hadn't actually started drinking until you got to college, I was like, how did that happen?
That's a really good point, and I'm gonna try to I guess make this concise. This is reminding me the other day in my group we were talking about how drinking is hereditary, right? So some people were talking about how like it's in their genetics that they're an alcoholic, which I don't necessarily believe that addiction is. I believe
hereditary.
Yeah, I don't think it's hereditary. Okay, great. That is the word. It's not. I don't think it's hereditary. I personally believe that if you grow up seeing your parents do certain things, if you live in the same environment as your parents who did A, B, and C, and that was the topic of that conversation. If you live in the same neighborhood where there's liquor stores all around, of course you're going to grow up and do the same thing. And then there's folks like me who did not grow up around alcohol. Didn't have my first drink until when I was like 19, 20. And then I was introduced to alcohol, and I realized how euphoric it was, and at the same time I still had a lot of unresolved trauma from my childhood that was not resolved. So I used alcohol. It gave me a relief, and we were talking in my group about like, because I guess like the worry was, how do we have kids who also do not struggle with this problem? Less trauma. I don't necessarily think alcohol is a bad thing in itself. However, more people than we know, which is why I know earlier we're going to talk about, I guess like the reception that my age group is giving. It's people my age are really trying to get sober or trying to focus on sobriety because for a lot of us, we've used it to cope with our childhood trauma. We didn't really use it in a way for like social. Some of us did use it in a way for like partying and maybe like social gatherings. However, once we became like sold on like, wow, this is euphoric, it makes us happy. I don't have to think about A, B, and C. We started using it more and more. So that's why I think that like now, like I guess like my generation, my age group, we're just trying to find new outlets and new coping mechanisms that really have to do with who we are and talking to who we are deep inside, and not like this mask that like we're showing, like that we feel like we have to show everyone. Because I went my whole life thinking I was fine, that I have a perfect childhood. You know, I went to private school, you know, all A's, gymnastics, blah blah blah. And then once everything was done, school was done. I had a great career. I had like a big luxury apartment, my dream car, and I was still unhappy. And I was still unhappy because there was so much unresolved things that happened when I was younger that I didn't know really affected me. I'm in this space where I'm not in the dorm. I'm not around people. I'm literally on my own. And it triggered me. It brought up like a depression and anxiety in me. And that's how I turned to alcohol in a way that became addicted.
Okay. And so then, so how did you come to the point to realize, oh shoot, I need to, I'm doing too much.
Girl.
Okay, you don't have to, and you can, that might be, or put it this way.
I'll put it this way. I tried to stop, but I couldn't stop, and that's when I knew it was a problem.
Right. Yeah. You don't have to tell me like because.
No, and it's fine. But I tried to. I remember it was maybe the October of 2018. I remember exactly what. It was around fall 2018, I believe. That I tried to. I was like, you know what? I'm done with drinking because at this point I was going to work late. I was like really unhappy, and it's one thing to be unhappy, but when you feel unhappy in your soul, like you feel like this doomsday. I realized that like alcohol at that time may be contributing to it, but when I tried to stop, I couldn't stop. And again, when I was in like college, law school, like that never happened. Like I was able to fast during Ramadan. I was able to like take breaks off of like alcohol, which is why when I talk about addiction, I always tell people, listen, the longer and the more you drink, you're going on a binge, the harder it is going to be for you to stop. And there's medical and science reasons meaning behind that. And I could if you can look it up if you don't believe me. I come from a family of drinkers. No one in my family ever drank. I literally spent 4 or 5 months in depression drinking every single day. And you can compare that, and that's why this pandemic, this quarantine is so triggering for me, because I know that people are going to, and it's already been shown, are going to come out of this quarantine in addiction because they sat in, and then you ask me about why my membership is growing, and that's why. Because we sat in quarantine for the first 3 months, 4 months, you know, people were doing those drinking challenges online.
Were they?
Yeah.
Because, you know, I'm not looking at none of that. But what I did notice that everything was like you were talking about, if you grow up around, you know, if your family drinks in the neighborhood house alcohol, liquor stores and stuff, it's normalized. So like I noticed how much like having a glass of wine is normalized. And when the pandemic happened, it was like the whole society was like, everybody, let's drink our way through this. And and because I had already started the process, I was like, okay, like how are people gonna get through this if you don't have a set of coping skills that you've already developed?
And when you don't even know what alcohol does. Like honestly, growing up, like you said, Muslims, like we were told not to drink, we weren't told why not to. In my head, you have all these misconceptions that you have to have a person in addiction in your family. We're told that addiction is hereditary, it's genetics. We're not told also that like addiction is also scientific. Like, you know, we produce all these chemicals in our heads once we start drinking, and then we want more and more because it makes us feel good. So we're not told all of that. So a lot of people are going to come out of this quarantine. They're in there now, and that's how our membership has been growing, because they don't understand what they're going through. They're confused, and it's again, it triggers me because I think about wow, I remember when I tried to like was like, Katie, you gotta get your life together. No more drinking. And then I literally went to work, right? Came home, and I just something in my body just couldn't stop. Like it went straight to the liquor store. I went straight, got home, went back out straight to the liquor store, and it was like wow. And I even like consciously put a little effort into it to not drinking, and it didn't work. So that's when I knew like something isn't right, and that happened a while until I finally decided to get help for it.
Interesting. So now I asked at the top of this, or I mentioned at the top of this idea of, and we kind of touched on it, like there are people who, like I think you said in your bio or in somewhere I read, like sober curious, or maybe on one of the like ads or something for like one of the like non-alcoholic drinks, like sober curious, sober-ish. What do you see as a distinction in those, or like how do you sort of view those along that within this whole paradigm?
Okay, so
That's a big question, huh?
it is, and I'm gonna try to answer the best I can. From my experience with myself, and also, if you know, so the Black Girls Club, I run a group. So we run groups. We run groups on Tuesdays, Thursdays, Fridays. So there's multiple women there, and just from my observations, Facebook groups, talking to other women in these support groups, alcohol, no matter what type of what way you're using it, usually does more harm than it does good. So in the beginning, a lot of the women that I was working with weren't necessarily in addiction. You know, a lot of them were they constantly felt depressed because the truth is alcohol is a downer. And we don't know these things. We really like, and I'm not a scientist, but you can look this up. It's like, yeah, you drink, maybe, you know, so that initial feeling is really good. But then, you know, you wake up in the morning, the hangover, and now you're depressed. You know, you miss your work, you miss
Cortisol levels and all this other stuff.
exactly.
A whole biological ripple effect is happening.
Exactly. And that doesn't mean you're not in addiction. You literally alcohol is just not mixing well in like with you. It's not doing well with your own your body chemicals and your own brain chemicals, right? So for the most part, I mean, in the beginning when I started with Black Girls Club, a lot of the girls that were in the club were not girls in addiction. They were really mostly like professional. I want to say, just thinking about it, they were like, you know, professional women. A lot of them went to like, and a lot of women in our club went to HU. I don't know which HU you attended. I don't know if it's Hampton or Howard. I'm not a.
Hampton. My guest, so I'm going to be kind. No, I went to the Mecca, the real HU. Howard University, and I actually have one of my friends watching right now who went to Hampton. You already know what it is.
Okay, yeah.
I thought that Kamala has like stamped this. We're not having this kind of
Okay, you can say that. Okay, yeah. Oh.
No, I'm just joking, but yeah, I went to Howard.
I forgot that this. I mean, I didn't go to HBCU, but I know like there's this huge like rift. I'm just like, okay, great, but no, I went to PWI, so I'm hating a little bit. But, yeah. So a lot of these women they just wanted to feel better. They just wanted to feel better, to do better in like their professional lives, do better as like a parent and again, a lot of these women, you know, experience trauma as a kid, as we all have. Well, most of us have. I shouldn't say probably all, but most of us have. And they would say like, oh, they would put like labels. They would say, well, you know, I'm not an addict. They would come to me like, I'm not an addict, but does this say addict? Like, does it say addict club? No, this just says Sober Black Girls Club. Do you have to be an addict to like to do this? So for me, it's just like when we use these labels, it just shows me a little bit of like where are you feeling insecure in your decision making. I don't need to explain anything to anyone. I know a number of people who told me that the reason why they decided to stop drinking, because let's say maybe they would go out drinking once every month. And every time they went drinking, they drank in some type of form, some problem always ended up happening. If they have gotten into like a fight with someone, they might have like some sexual risky behavior. So does that make them an addict? No. They just recognize that alcohol is not playing a conducive part in their life, and they want it to remove it. They don't want it to. They don't want it. Excuse me, to have anything to do with them anymore.
Right.
So like,
that's interesting. That's interesting.
So when it comes to like sober curious and sober living, I'm like, say what you want. Who cares? Like, who? For me, it's like who cares? I guess like sober curious. If you're contemplating it, so you might have time on and off, which is still great. Like, okay, great. What's the other one?
I think it's like I've seen, like, people put the ish on everything now. So like sober ish, sober curious. But I appreciate this more nuanced approach a lot more, because like I said, I don't know, like, if, like you said, like the labels are stupid and they limit people's whatever, like their own personal real life. Like you were saying, like, I don't know if I would tell people like I don't drink, or because I don't know if I'm gonna change my mind later. So there's like this weird, like, if you feel that you should be defining things, it can be limiting and probably a little bit mess people up from like getting to wherever they're trying to go, because they don't think that they fit into whatever the label is.
Exactly. And like that's why with Soul Black Girl stuff, it's like really my goal. Like, I don't know if I can like, I mean, you saw the cards online. Like, we're making cards, we're selling.
Yes. Tell us all the things, pump all the things you're doing. Yes.
It's not even.
Came out with, I meant to talk about that. You just came out with your cards. Show them.
I know, but I'm just thinking this up. Oh, my favorite part is over there. I'm just thinking this up because it's like, we need to normalize people just not drinking. Like, is it that serious? Like, if you want to not, if you drink, I mean, if you're drinking in a way that you're using it to cope, then I do think you need to get help. Stop with a therapist. But even if you are just drinking at home, just to pass, like, okay, if it's not harming you, if it's not harming anyone, that's fine. I'm not anti-alcohol. I'm just here to support the woman and the people who just want to stop drinking, but they get so much pushback because society thinks you have to have this like crazy story or rock bottom or A, B, and C. Absolutely not. Can we like just normalize that some people
just don't drink?
Just don't drink. They don't, whatever. I'm not even gonna say. They just don't drink and they don't want to drink, or they did drink in the past, but for whatever reason they have made a decision to stop drinking. Is that okay with you?
You know what the funny thing is, I do have this really big, it is a big question, but the funny thing is that I will say is that before I stopped drinking, I definitely was that person where people be like, I don't drink. I'll be like, what?
Yeah. Yes.
But like, for a long time when I first stopped, I didn't tell people because I was like, I don't want to have to explain it. I don't know where this, where I'm going with it or whatever. And I was like, because I knew that I was the person who like wanted to know why and like what you mean? Like when you go out, what do you do?
Yes. Oh my gosh, I have to stop online dating, to be honest. Like, oh, I don't drink. Why? Because I don't want to. I'm not gonna tell somebody my life story if I just meet you online.
Yeah,
no. And they're like, do you smoke? Like, dude, do you understand that you asking all these questions mean that there's something like you are not okay with you just like, you don't even know me. We're just meeting, trying to like schedule a date, and you already have a problem with me not being under some influence. Like, that says a lot about you more than it does about me.
Yeah, that's interesting. But I think that I wonder, I do. So my husband doesn't drink, never drank at all. So I know a lot of people who don't drink. So it's interesting. That's why I was wondering about your generation of folks. Like, in my perception, I'm like, because I think about my 20s, I'm like, who in their 20s is not drinking?
I mean, and also I want to make this part because I want to go on a rampage. Also, when I think about like the support groups that we host, and I think that like for a lot of people, especially the women in my group, like I said, a lot of us are professionals, and there's a lot of us who are not. But I'm just trying to give you an idea of why I'm saying what I'm about to say. A lot of us been through a lot of shit, not only in the family, but living in a world, corporate America, having to do whatever, sexism, racism, blah 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 blah.
Right.
So a lot of us did use, and it might not have been addiction. And again, it's not addiction. Like again, when I'm in college, law school, coming home, unwinding, we use that so we can like tolerate the weight of the world, right? So it was a good relief. We can breathe. We can finally, feel like we.
Yeah.
Now I feel like, especially my generation, women in my age group, we're realizing that is not self-care for like Black women. If you want to drink, go drink, have your glass of wine. But also, how can we alleviate the world around us, the things that are around us that are making us feel like we have to drink? Like
Right.
this is our own way of like relaxation. You
Right.
know what I mean? And so I think that like my generation, including myself, we saw our parents go through this. Like our parents might have like not my parents per se, but you got it. Like we witnessed our parents.
That generation.
Yeah, just
Probably my generation.
I don't know. I don't know. Honestly, a Black woman, like y'all be looking like 23, and when you guys you were like we're not the same age or something like that. I was like, okay, I'm not even gonna ask because I don't know. Like, yeah, podcast with this woman, and she's a part of the Black Club. I'm starting a podcast soon, and she told me that she was like 40, and I was like, how are you 40? I don't get it. Like,
yeah, girl. I mean, we're trying, but so. I think you're leading into like the really kind of big question, is that why sober Black girls? Because you talked about this on your Instagram page, and I think it's a really important thing. And that's a whole show about the barriers to support that is specific to Black women and that kind of thing. Talk a little bit about that, because I think that piece was like it was like an aha for me, or like how support for addiction can be male centric or Eurocentric. Like I never thought about that.
Oh, for sure. I remember getting sober. They told me to go to AA. I was like, what the hell is AA? Never even heard of it. Went to a church, white people. It was the most ridiculous thing, and not because they were white, but because there was no people of color. Meanwhile, Black folks, the studies show that Black people drink less and at a later time than white folks. However, more Black people suffer from addiction, which says a lot about society. More Black people are in jail for drugs and DUIs, DWIs. However, the statistics show that Black people drink at later times and less Black, and I think that has to do with like church, like church things. But bringing it back to
people really are more conservative. They're conservative. We're a conservative group of people. We might have our pockets of people wilding out, but for the most part, even the people that are wilding out, they're wilding out while they know their parents are not looking, like against what they were taught.
Exactly. Exactly.
We're a pretty conservative group of folks.
Yeah, exactly. And then why I dedicated this to Black women specifically, because I do get emails. What about Black men? What about you? And I'm joking. Not what about you, but can you relax? Like when you think about like the weight of the world that like a lot of Black women have to like endure, and like let's be realistic. Like we get praised for like having the most degrees. At what cost does that come with? We get praised for being smarter than boys. At what cost does that come at? Like our parents praise us. Oh,
it just don't wanna do.
Our parents praise us and be like, oh, Katie, you're the favorite. You're my favorite. You blah blah blah. At what cost? Girls we're not born to be like strong. We don't come out the womb like with like freaking muscles up to here. It's that society, whether it's our parents, school, whatever, boys, blah blah blah. Our experience with these entities makes us feel like we have to be Superwoman 24/7. And I
Mm-hmm.
acknowledge that. When people say, for me, trauma, my trauma was really white supremacy. Always, I recently just cut my hair like 2 weeks ago, and I tell you, my mom must have come. I know she's gonna scream because for a while, like my hair was my identity. Like for a while, I would never dare weigh over 135. Like I used to like starve myself just to fit
Mm-hmm.
a certain way. I remember being in private school, I was the only black girl there, and used to like wrap my sweater around my waist because I was so embarrassed of my butt. I was so embarrassed that I actually had like my boobs. And I'm going to a Catholic school, Irish Catholic school.
Oh, and you're cute as a button. What?
Thank you. I was going to like school with all, and again, because I wasn't getting like, because in my head that wasn't trauma. I didn't realize that like what I was experiencing being so integrated with a group of people who not only did not look like me, but made it clear and made it and try their hardest not to be identified with my community. It gave me an identity crisis. It made me like I was always, it made me always want to be number one. It made me really, really what's the word, tokenism. Like I was really in engaged and entangled with that, like always wanting to impress people and right people. And then when you finally reach all those levels, like you got everything, you did everything, now you don't even know your self-worth. You don't even know who you are. And
And,
that
and although you thought you was going to get a reward, there isn't one.
there isn't one. There isn't one. So that's why I through therapy I realized that me being a woman, me being black, was really the center of my trauma. It was really the center of my trauma. There's no other way to put it. And I know the black community, because like I was joking earlier, so I hope none of your listeners curse me out through you or curse you out. But I like, the black community, yes, we need to address our mental health. We need to address our mental health. We need to really validate our emotional and mental needs. And I agree with everyone. That's men, women. I so get it. But a lot of my trauma has also been through like appealing and taking care of men in capacity of family and relationships. That when I tell you how I am effing tired, I am tired. And I just wanted to focus on me. And I knew that other women were going through this. Because like I said, I don't think that we're just born out the womb smarter, or like all these statistics about black women being so smart, degrees. Why do you think that is? It's not race season.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And the number one is like strong, just period, and that can encompass everything. Just like you have to be strong, period. It's no other way to be.
Yeah, and
There's no other way to be. I told a friend of mine one day, we were talking, I was saying how like I'm a big baby sometimes. Like when I go to the doctor, I want the lollipop, I want the Band-Aid, I want the whole thing. Yes, I'm a grown woman, but I want the whole thing. Right? I was saying how like I'm a big baby. I will cry. Like that's my one place where I really like turn it on, right? And I was saying how one day I was going to work and I walked out my front door and I fell down like 2 steps and like hurt my knee. And I went back in the house to my husband like, oh my God, look at my knee. And he's like, oh, you are old damsel in distress, huh? And was like really shaming me.
I'm laughing at you. I'm laughing at the story.
No, I'm not feeling like that. But she was really shaming me for like, I was like, yeah. Yes, I was at that moment. And what's wrong with that? But we definitely like kind of push each other and we do it to one another. We do, others do it to us or whatever. So that makes sense to me. And I think that hopefully, if someone is watching that is interested in the topic, but is not a girl, that doesn't mean that there aren't plenty of spaces that are integrated or also just for guys, because we all have these moments where we need to be able to talk within our own affinity groups about, things that are particular to us. Like we have to have that in order to then come back together and coexist a lot more harmoniously, exactly. In my opinion.
And I always tell people, I always tell people, even like sometimes like the Native Americans, Spanish people, like, is their community for us. And I'm like, listen, You have to create it. It's not going to become exist if you do not create it. And when I created Sober Black Girls Club, I was not sober. It wasn't supposed to be what it is now. When I created Sober Black Girls Club, because I was trying to get help, and I went online and I didn't see, and I'm a millennial, so I did everything online, and I didn't see any, like, all these sober pages were of, like, white women doing yoga and, like, laughing. And at that time, I was such in a dark place in my life. I could not relate to that. Like, sobriety wasn't funny to me or fun at that time. So that's why I created Sober Black Girls Club. It was like a blog at that point. I was just writing about my experiences in sobriety. And then it manifested into, like, this organization, this community, this collective community now, because I let other Black women know that, listen, we can do this together. Black women who are going through the same thing that I was going through, we can do this together. And then for the women and the folks who were not going through what I was going through, but just realized that alcohol did not play the role that they thought it would in their life, they wanted to be a part of it. And that's how we came out to be what we are now.
I think that you have created something that is so unique and so special and so necessary. I do want you to say, like, all of your platforms and all of your ways that people can become involved, get involved, find out more. I want you to say all those things when you come on the show. Like, this is about sharing information, but pump your business too. So you do support groups on Thursdays, and what else? Because your Instagram, which is how I met you, which is Sober Black Girls Club on Instagram. What other platforms are you on?
So, all right. So, if you're watching and you are struggling with any type of substance, my best advice would be to, if you want to contact us, my best advice is just to go on the website, which is www.soberblackgirlsclub.com. There you will see, like, we hold support groups on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. You will see that we have a mentorship form. If you need additional help in terms of any outpatient, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a therapist, but I am a lawyer. So what we do is we help folks, like, get free services if they need free services. If they have insurance, we'll help you, like, put that together or connect you to whatever resources that you need. Now, if you're a Black girl, a non-binary person who just wants to gather up with other, sober folks, we do have the Tuesday, Thursday, Friday meetings where sober curious, social drinkers. I don't want to say social drinkers. That's not the right word. Sober curious folks, sober-ish folks, sober folks. We meet during those support groups to get together and just talk about things that, like, pertain to us. We're on all platforms. I want to say Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. I'm trying to get my game up, but that's kind of like all these dumb videos.
So what game?
Huh?
What you trying to get? What game up?
TikTok.
Oh no, Clubhouse. You got Clubhouse.
That's like every 5 seconds there's something coming up. Like now we're getting the club on Clubhouse. We're on Pinterest. I'm just like, okay, this is getting really draining.
It's a lot. And you're a lawyer, so it's like I got to do my day job.
Yeah.
But so people can find you on all platforms. They can log in. They can join your groups. It's support groups as well as it's support groups just for this journey of, like, sober living. But then you also were doing support for women who were struggling with just resources. I remember you had that program. Are you still doing that?
So the Tuesday meetings for Black and queer people who, honestly, in those meetings, like, especially if you are right now in addiction or something more serious, I don't know if that's the right term, but hopefully you understand what I'm saying. You're not always going to be sober. There are going to be moments of relapses. So then there's going to be moments, like, that's the thing with the sober journey. Like, sometimes people be like, oh, I want to be sober. And then, like, a few months later, like, no, it's not for me anymore. Am I going to kick you out the group? No. So, like, you can still, like, you know what I mean? Like,
I do.
We're not a support group that gives, like, medical advice. We're literally, like, a support group that just, we talk, we have on. Yeah, support. So wherever you are in your journey, like, just come on. And those are Tuesdays for those who identify as Black and queer, men, women, it doesn't matter. Thursdays and Fridays are only for Black women. Sorry, and non-binary folks.
Mm-hmm.
Again, we're trying to make sobriety. We're trying to make it okay for sobriety to be a lifestyle for no reason. Hopefully, when it's like time for me to have kids, or for like the other members to have kids, their kids are not going to want to be sober because of trauma. They're just going to want to be sober because maybe they already found other healthy coping mechanisms. Maybe they're social drinkers, but we just want to like.
And maybe they learn how to have fun.
Exactly.
Without
drinking
any additional substances.
Yeah, exactly. So we're trying to make it a lifestyle, which is why, like I was telling you earlier, we started these cards. I don't know if you can.
Yes, how can they get the cards? So the cards are like support cards.
Yeah. So
like congratulating people, thanking people, giving people encouragement for wherever they are in their journey. So how do they get the cards?
Oh, online. It's www.soberblackgirlsclub.com. We have shirts, we have hoodies.
Can you put the website up on the screen for me, please?
Me? I'm like, I don't know how to do that. I'm looking at this. I'm like, how do you guys do this?
So they can go to your website and they can get the cards as well to support. And you can get the card for someone, even for someone who is in the journey, just to encourage them, even if you aren't in that journey yourself.
Yes.
So,
and if you are watching this, and if you have, I can't see anything. I don't know what I'm looking at. I'm over here looking as if I can like see who's watching us. But anyways, if you do have big bucks, we do look for donors constantly. That's how we're able to. That's how I'm able to like to pay for our Zoom account. That's how I'm able to like there's some women who do have DUIs, DWIs, and we try to help them too because they deserve second chances.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm only allowed to help those in New York. I don't get paid for that. Sometimes I have to ask volunteer lawyers in other states. They don't get paid. So, that's our subscription box. You can exit that out so they can see the actual page. Yeah, great. Beautiful.
There you go. So there's a myriad of, not only can you come to be supported, but you can also become a supporter of your organization to help for this organization to continue and to spread the work, not only like you said, not only for the support groups, but like helping women who are in trouble because of some of their mistakes that they've made and that kind of thing. So, if you're looking for a way, we're always talking about support Black business. Here's another different kind of Black business that we can also support that will also spread that the philanthropy. Here's a way to become a philanthropist.
Yeah. And it's so needed more now than ever, because like I said in the beginning, it was sort of like a social group, but now because of the pandemic, like
it's growing.
Women who need help, they need to be put in some type of like treatment, but that also costs money, which we do have a bank account, which we do use. For people who cannot afford it, we do have a medical fund. You can see that on our where we do pay co-payments. We pay for like if you need transportation, we pay for, that's pretty much just using the co-payments or the out of insurance payments, whatever you want to, I don't know what you call it in your state. Out of pocket costs. And really transportation, and maybe sometimes here and there bail, but there's always that like condition that are you gonna go get help, and then usually it works out.
That's amazing. Like I love to hear like the expansiveness of the organization. I'm happy that you were able to come on. I am happy to have been able to get a chance to meet and talk to you face to face. And more importantly, like bigger than that, I'm just really proud of the work that you're doing. I know that for me, like I said, when I was like, all right, I'm going to do this, I'm one of those type of people, like I'm a researcher, like I need to know the like facts behind things. And I was researching like to understand what decisions that I was making, because I was like, I'm not an alcoholic. And like, what is this? Like, I was like looking for, I guess because of the labels that were in the back of my mind. So I was like researching and just understanding and doing all that I do. That's normally my process. And then I was looking online, and I don't know how I happened to come across your page, but your page was the first page that I came across that was like dedicated to like non-drinking.
I'm happy
I
you
was
did.
like, sober Black girls. Okay, this is good. And I just started following it, and it just over time. I used to laugh because I was like, I think I might be the oldest person on her page, but since then,
No, a lot of like our dedicated supporters who are like so, but they look like 22. I'm like, what is it? I don't get it. But anyways, now one of my close like the members, a member who I'm very close to, she's 40, and she both like one is 39.
yeah, yeah.
You can never tell.
Yeah, that's the goal. So I again, guys, follow Sober Black Girls Club, whether you are fully on the wagon or wherever you are in your journey, even if you just sometimes are thinking about it. It's an interesting space for Black women and just learning about. It's a supportive place. I think it's a supportive page in general for wherever you are in your journey of self-care, which was why I asked you to come on for the love portion of today's segment, because I think this really is about growing in love with yourself and like being able to figure out this idea of self-care and expanding it beyond bubble baths and facial to really include making these like unique decisions for yourself in service to your own, or like trusting your own gut that says, hey, I want to try this new journey. And so again, follow Khadi on Sober Black Girls Club on all the platforms. And or if you're interested in being a philanthropist and supporting her work, she can always use some support. You are a 501. Do you have 501? She says, go to her website and look it up.
We literally
she's growing.
We literally just incorporated. We submitted the 501(c)(3) paperwork. That takes time, but the paperwork is in. So once we get that stamp of approval, but we are incorporated. You can find our EIN number. You can find. I don't know if that's available for the public, but whatever is available for public for a business, you can find it for us.
Awesome! That is really, really good. Congratulations. Thank you on behalf of people who are out here looking for support, especially during these times. And I wish you continued success on your own personal journey, as well as, on this journey to supporting other women. So with that, it's time to sign off. Everybody enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you just happen to be tuning in and you're catching the last tail end of the show, you can go to my YouTube channel, Sharonda Davila-Irving, where you can catch today's episode of Art Loves Fashion, or you can also catch the previous episodes of Art Loves Fashion. Again, thank you for spending your Sunday with me.
Hey guys, this is Sharonda Irving, image consultant and host of Art Loves Fashion. If you missed today's episode, don't worry, don't stress. You can go to my YouTube channel and see today's episode, as well as some of my other past episodes. You'll be able to see some of my super fantastic guests, as well as fun content. If you enjoyed the show, please make sure that you leave me something in the comments. Don't forget, our airing schedule is every second and fourth Sunday from 5 to 6 o'clock. Tune in with me live on Facebook and on YouTube. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Hey guys, this is Sharonda Irving, image consultant and host of Art Loves Fashion. If you missed today's episode, don't worry, don't stress. You can go to my YouTube channel and see today's episode, as well as some of my other past episodes. You'll be able to see some of my super fantastic guests, as well as fun content. If you enjoyed the show, please make sure that you leave me something in the comments. Don't forget, our airing schedule is every second and fourth Sunday from 5 to 6 o'clock. Tune in with me live on Facebook and on YouTube. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Welcome to Art Loves Fashion. I'm your host, Sharonda Irving. I'm an image consultant, professional developer, art curator and collector, a wife and a mom. This show, Art Loves Fashion, is about, you guessed it, art, love, and fashion. We'll be meeting new people, trying interesting things, and hopefully learning something new. Sounds kind of vague, right? That's because I want you to join me on Sundays at 5 o'clock as we take a journey of all things creative and beautiful with art, loves, fashion.